I used to even make memes. Both of us sucked at engineering. VCs were starting to pump in a lot of money in tech startups. So they were all raising lots of money. So in a way, the timing was also perfect. Firstly, you should see who you're taking your advice from. So listen to me only if I am genuinely someone who you feel is relevant for your space.
Today we have Sahil Vaidya, the co-founder of the Minimalist, one of the India's best creative solution brand. Sahil founded this company with his friend Chirag back in 2015. It all started with a Facebook page where they used to share their unique take on everything with the minimalistic design approach. Today we will be talking everything about minimalist and the work that they have created throughout the years. We will also touch upon the book that they have written, Think Like a Minimalist, which is a national bestseller. Welcome to Flamcast, Sahil. We are very happy to have you with us today.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Sahil, the idea, the concept of simplicity is not new to Indians. It has always been here. What does minimalism, according to you, according to minimalist, means?
So it's a larger philosophy. It's not just about visual design. It's about doing the least amount or the simplest amount of things to create the maximum amount of impact. That's what minimalism is truly. And if I could define it in three words, I would say include, exclude, focus. So the entire idea
Okay.
is to drain out the things that don't matter and zero in on what truly matters and just focus on that. I think in the world of brand marketing, product design, we see people focusing a lot on too many things and on stuff that doesn't really move the needle. What consumers are looking for is that one idea or that one design feature that will really make your product or your marketing stand out. So that's what minimalism is, focusing on what truly matters.
So it started as a Facebook page back in time. How did the idea come to you to start a Facebook page, and what was a turning point for the Facebook page to become a full-fledged agency?
Right. So it was a very funny journey. So it started in 2015 when I was at IIT Bombay with my co-founder Chirag. So we had two things in common when we met. One was that both of us were really passionate about creativity. So I was into writing, humor. I used to write a lot on Quora back in the day. I used to
Okay.
write one-liner jokes on Facebook. So Facebook was still a platform that everyone went to, not like it is today. And I used to even make memes back in 2012.
Oh,
So I
nice.
was always into creativity, and my co-founder was always into design. So we realized that this is something that really binds us together. And the second thing was that both of us sucked at engineering. So we knew that you're not going to get any jobs at college. So might as well figure out our own path. So we realized that why don't we combine our creative skill sets and do something different? So back in the day in 2015, Facebook was the emerging platform. Brands were slowly starting to do something over there.
Yeah.
And we were like the Gen Zs of 2015. So we were the new kids on the block trying to do something that others hadn't figured out. So we thought that let's start putting out some very simple, hard hitting creatives on Facebook on everything that's happening in the country, and let's see where it goes.
Okay.
So some of our creatives just went viral organically.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah, a lot of them actually. Of course, we had no money to boost or anything, so it was all organic. And suddenly we realized that it was leading to a community of 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 1 lakh followers. And it was all organic. And we were sitting in our dorm rooms wondering how this is happening and what we should do about it. So looking at that virality, a lot of clients started approaching us saying that if you're doing this for fun, why don't you do it for us? You build
Wow.
our brand, do our marketing, do our product design. And that's how the company started. So it was very serendipitous. There was no grand strategy or business plan behind it. It
Wow.
all just happened.
What was the first brand that you worked like for money, not like organically?
So it was a tech startup. So since we are from IIT, of course, there were a lot of people from the IIT network noticing what we were doing.
Oh,
So this was
nice.
a company called Care 24. So they reached out to us saying that do our rebranding. They had just raised money. In 2015, VCs were starting to pump in a lot of money in tech startups. So they were all raising lots of money. So in a way, the timing was also perfect. Because all these startups who were raising were sort of noticing us, and that's why we ended up working with a lot of the initial
Wow.
unicorns in the country.
Very nice. From your early Facebook page to Fortune 500 brands, what is one lesson about creativity that remains constant?
I think it's about focusing on again what matters, and brands often do a lot of things, but they forget what their purpose really is, and focusing on that one message for long enough,
Yeah.
that actually pays dividends. So like even in our own journey, what we have observed is staying true to our philosophy instead of getting distracted by every new trend that comes up has really paid
Yeah.
off. And if you see brands like Amul, the reason they have succeeded is because they have just done one thing for 35 years or 40 years.
Yeah.
They didn't jump on every trend and say we'll change our
They jump on
marketing.
every trend, but they do it in their brand
Yeah, jump
language.
on every trend in the sense they jump on cultural trends, not on marketing trends that, we will shift our positioning
No.
or we'll pivot completely.
No.
So they have just stuck to that one thing. And what I have realized is that if you stick to one thing for long enough, if you believe in something genuinely, it will pay off, but the dividends come only in the long term. And the thing is, if you have long term thinking, then, the results will flow. The thing is, the world is so short termist today that the ability to think long term is really evaporating. So again, brands that have that capability will really win out.
Your book talks about constraints fuel creativity. But in today ad world, advertising world, everyone wants to grab attention. So how do you balance simplicity with impact?
So I think even in today's fast-paced world, when everyone's scrolling, everyone will stop at some content that catches their attention because it's unusual, a little different,
Yeah.
probably a bit intelligent, and that's where I think the minimalist philosophy plays a role. It doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be minimalist in what you do, but if your content is thoughtful and has a certain philosophy behind it, it will really help. For example, in the luxury space, we work with Tata Click Luxury. We've been building that brand for the last 4 years. So, in a world that's moving towards fast sales, quick commerce, right? First there was e-commerce, now there's quick commerce. We actually took a very contrarian stance, saying that we will actually build out a philosophy of slow commerce. So, in a world where everyone is saying click, buy, sale, 10 minutes, we will say take a pause, reflect, savor what matters. And we have just been the more mindful player in the luxury space. We believe in conscious consumption over conspicuous consumption, and that has worked out beautifully for the brand. It has built a community of people who savor the finer things in life, and that's how brands can really stand out.
I think luxury somewhere stand for minimalism. So I think it just marries the brand with your brand, with their brand language, also with the category as well, which is luxury.
Absolutely. In fact, luxury globally, all luxury brands are very much minimalist, and they do
Yes.
that because they don't really need to say 100 things.
They just have
Luxury is also appealing to the elite consumer who
Yeah.
is a bit self-assured. They don't need a lot of validation, 100 things to be told to them. So it's that's why it's sleek. And also, if you see, people who enjoy luxury want to do it in a discreet way. So even the communication that talks to them should not be loud. It should be discreet. It should be a little classy, elegant, a lot of white space. That is why minimalism is a match made in heaven with luxury.
And that is one thing that you've spoken about in your book as well, which is the rewarding feeling when consumer, there's a eureka moment, when consumer get the elements in your design. So there's a reward feeling that they get. And the luxury category is also marrying the same similar thing. Do you subconsciously making the consumer feel smarter about themselves?
Yeah, so minimalism is one way, but like this is true for all intelligent advertising, where if you see some of the best print ads in history, they are very clever and they induce that aha moment in the
Yeah.
person who is viewing the ad. It almost turns into a game where you share that ad with a friend and you ask them that did you get it right? And
Yeah.
that's what we have been trying to do with the minimalist content. I know it doesn't apply to all brands because brands have to communicate what their product stands for. But I feel that in a world where there's so much advertising, we have somewhere lost that art of creating intelligent advertising. And we really feel that that could be a good space for brands to occupy. Do something clever that becomes a conversation that people want to talk about, want to share with other people because it's thoughtful.
So minimalist is always going for shareability and virality, then creating a longer impact. Is that true?
Minimalism is a tool.
No, I'm saying the minimalist. Your
Yeah.
agency is always going for virality or shareability, then creating a longer impact from the brand perspective. Is that true, or is it?
It depends. So, for tactical purposes, if there's a short-term campaign where the entire goal is to garner as much awareness and eyeballs as possible, then we will do what's best to,
Okay.
shore up the numbers. But at the same time, like I said, for some of the brands where the entire point is long-term brand building, we are focusing on zeroing in on a very sharp purpose and just building it out and doing that same thing over and over again. so that it registers in the mind of
Yeah.
consumers. That is what positioning, sharp positioning does,
Yeah.
right?
So
It
not
says the same.
falling for the trends, basically.
Exactly. I mean, you can accommodate the trends as long as it fits in your larger story. Like brands are just like people, and if you see a lot of brands, they act like split personalities. Like they'll one day say something, the other day say something totally random because some trend broke out and they felt compelled to comment on
Yeah.
it. As a brand, you don't need to do that. If you are a person, just act like a person would, and people will relate to that consistency, just like people relate to us when we are consistent. They know us as a particular personality.
Yeah. So some of the work you said that on your Facebook page has garnered millions of views organically, and some of they were almost the trending topics: the death of the whale, the farm bill. So do you think that culture relevance is required in minimalism, and it cannot be picked up on its own, or it's not true?
I think if there is enough of a context for what you're talking about, then I think minimalism is a way to get your message across in the sharpest, most intelligent fashion possible. In fact, if you see a lot of brands like even McDonald's or Coke, they have
Yeah.
been using the minimalist principles in their advertising since the longest time, and they don't need any cultural context. It just a lot of their ads, if you see, they embody the principles of sharp, hard-hitting, very simple advertising, which is very clever,
Yeah.
and it is not really related to any cultural trend. So of course, if there's some cultural movement, you can capitalize on it, but
Then
it's
it's
not
good.
necessary. Yeah,
So it can stand on its own as well.
absolutely. In fact, Apple is another brand that is built on minimalism. They
Yeah,
believe that
simplicity.
simplicity is
Yeah.
the ultimate sophistication. So bereft of any context, they've continued to build that philosophy over the years.
Okay, Sahil, as per you, what is harder, making something complex feel simple or something simple feel valuable?
I believe, I mean, both are big challenges that marketers have to solve.
Yeah.
But we have actually worked with a lot of tech companies and B2B companies, and I genuinely believe that turning something that's very complex into a simple, thing that people can relate to is genuinely a hard task. Like Richard Feynman said that if you genuinely understand something, you can explain it to a 6-year-old, right? So doing that in marketing and branding is also extremely critical, and many times we miss that. For example, we were once working with MoEngage, which is like one of the biggest,
Yeah.
B2B SaaS
Yeah, SaaS
companies in the
company. Yeah.
omni-channel marketing space. So we help them craft their branding and come to a very sharp positioning that they are for the customer obsessed marketer. So just coming to that sharp positioning is very critical when everyone is saying AI first, omni-channel, mobile first engagement, B2B
Yeah.
SaaS. Like so many jargons are used, so much functional conversations are had that the client is ultimately confused between the 10 B2B players he's evaluating.
Yeah.
So they want a clear, sharp understanding of, okay, आप करते क्या हो वो बता दो. Like, what is the emotional payoff for me? I know you are all doing the same things. Everyone's offering the same product. What is the emotional payoff? And transforming that complexity into something simple that the customer can relate to, I think that's a really hard task. But if achieved properly, it can have massive payoff for brands, and that's what we are really trying to do with a lot of companies.
Okay, so you have worked across categories for so many brands. Which is one category or a brand that resists minimalism?
I think minimalism as a philosophy is applicable everywhere, but I mean, there are, in terms of if you purely look at visual work or in terms of the communication, there are brands in the, let's say, education space or healthcare space where you can't just focus on being very sharp and very simple. You have to over communicate because trust is a very critical component of what your
Okay.
marketing has to achieve. So you have to over explain, you have to build trust through the actions that the things that you say and communicate. So the focus there is not to try to be intelligent and try to be as simple as possible. It's to build trust. So even when we work with clients, we don't believe that there's a one size fits all approach that everyone has to believe in the minimalist philosophy. There are many brands where you have to be aligned with what the brand's voice is, what the brand's tone is, what their
Absolutely. Yeah.
customer needs.
Yeah.
So it's not a one size fits all approach.
Now, with the rise of interactivity, design is not just seen, you can like interact with them. At Flam, also, we recently did a campaign with Google
Right.
Pixel into a touch based MR experience. So, do you think interactive content is the future for branding?
Yeah, I believe interactive content will just grow and grow. In fact, thanks to AI, you will also probably see yourself in ads. So, content will be extremely tailored to you in a way that you can't resist. And I think MR is just the right step in the evolution of interactive
Yeah.
content because one trend that we've also been seeing is now with the saturation of 2D content, people will be more akin to consume multi-sensorial content, content that appeals to more senses,
Yeah.
sight, sound, touch, 3D experiences. Those will just grow. So I believe MR is just going to take off and go bigger, and maybe the formats will also change over time. And but I think it's a trend that will play out.
You have also spoken about negative space, which is the thought is the concept is very powerful. Can you talk more about that negative space?
Yeah, so negative space is again like more than what you see, it's about what you don't really see in the first
Yeah.
glance, and that when it gets revealed creates that aha moment. So in a lot of our creatives, like the one which we open our book with on the whale, or even the one we made for Indian soldiers, where you can see the Batman logo in the negative space, those are
Correct.
like those classic creatives where uh, it's hidden in the background. So positive space is what your eyes
Can
initially
see.
focus on,
Yeah.
but everything that's left in the background is what the negative space implies, and that is the freedom to play with and hide things in your creative, which can create a mind-blowing impact for the consumer when they figure out what you're trying to say.
So negative space works when there is a frame. However, mixed reality doesn't have any frame. It's a canvas. There's no fixed frame. How do you see that coming into picture? How do you define uh, negative space in mixed reality?
In fact, I think since mixed reality, the end output is often a video that people see when they scan an ad,
Yeah.
right? You can also play around with negative space in the video format, just like you do in static. So, in fact, very early on, like this, just this Batman thing, we had made a small video or a cinematograph of it, where in the video format, it's revealed that okay, there's this hidden thing. So there are, I think, degrees of freedom you can play around with this concept even in videos, but I think. The ultimate sophistication is there in the static format only. Like when in 2017-18 GIFs and videos started
Yeah.
getting popular, we also thought we'll experiment a lot with that. And MR is like one extension of that in the mixed reality space where
Correct.
you use video. But for things like negative space, I think print is still, or like static is
Static
still,
is the
yeah,
thing.
the thing,
Okay.
because it's logged over there. It forces you to think and figure out what's really happening. And again, like you said, constraint fuels creativity. Static imposes a lot of constraints. With video, all constraints are off. You can do whatever you want. Yeah, but if you really want to get that hard hitting piece, that constraint is very, very critical. That's why I think for negative space specifically, static is a great medium.
So MR is actually immersive and it is layered also. However, minimalism is simplicity, not layered at all. How do you see the two exist together?
So we had tried this with one of our clients also, where the MR was for a luxury client, and there we had ensured that when the mixed reality experience plays, it's very simple aesthetic. Like there is those watercolor illustrations that would show up, right?
So
So we had
design language basically.
correct, correct. So we had ensured that the principles of minimalism do play out in that, because again, this was a very ultra luxury brand, and those brands don't say much. They aren't very loud. They actually want the classy, simple aesthetic that defines their identity. So we are trying to marry that with MR. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but we are sure it will sometime or the other. So I see that it can coexist. Like you can still have very simplistic aesthetic experiences even if you are using MR.
Okay. So you also spoke about AI taking over, and there's a lot of stuff that AI is already doing for us in designing, basically in elements, simplicity and minimalist. Do you think that AI can do that as well, or you require human touch to eliminate all the garbage that is there?
I think right now it's a great first draft generation tool. So you can have 100 initial drafts in the click of a button. Uh, right now, where the tool is, I still think that the refinement, what to exclude, that kind of sensibility today is only present with humans who have cultivated the taste over the years through a lot of exposure to
Okay.
the relevant work. You never know if the machine can develop that capability over the years.
Okay.
Perhaps it will, I'm not sure. But at least
But right now
today,
it's not there.
no, it's not there. In fact, if you try to generate any of these minimalist style ads or any of these clever ads, it just can't do it. It just can't. So today it's not there. Perhaps in the future it will be there.
Okay. When we talk about dopamine branding, when there is lot of aesthetic chaos and bright colors, use of bright colors are there. Can minimalism ever compete with that level of visual stimulation?
Um, I think they are fundamentally different. The formats are very different. For example, this dopamine branding is more for, when you're scrolling. So when you're scrolling anyway, you are in a competition where everyone's shouting a lot. So you have to sort of play that game and ensure that you are not lost out in the crowd.
Yeah.
Sometimes when everyone's doing the same thing, doing something different can genuinely stand out. Right. So those are opportunities that brands can identify. But at the same time, I believe minimalism as a larger philosophy can help brands stand out if you don't just think about the medium, one social media, a place where it's all about just catching attention in the first 3 seconds. Beyond that, brands have many other touch points like the packaging, like the store experience, if it's a B2C brand, the website, the kind of direct marketing that happens. So across the entire ecosystem and touch points, you can ensure that one simple, consistent philosophy can do the job for you.
Okay.
But of course, if you're talking about only something like Instagram, you have to sometimes play the game if the focus is on maximizing engagement.
Okay. How does you make your agency stand apart when there's so much noise and clutter in the ecosystem?
Yeah, in fact, there's a lot of competition. But what has helped us is staying true to this principle of doing things differently, trying to be intelligent. And also at the Minimalist, what we try to do is we try to combine marketing and brand strategy thinking with experience design and technology. Because we believe that doing good marketing and brand building is just one part of the job. When you get customers through the door, also the kind of experience that they have on your website,
Yeah.
mobile,
Yeah.
or in the physical store, that UX is very critical.
Yeah.
And the right application of creative technology will help create a very seamless experience. So MR is also part of creative technology that we do at the Minimalist, right?
Okay.
So we combine experience design and marketing, and that really helps us stand out because we look at the entire customer journey rather than just one part of marketing.
Yeah.
Because what's the point of great marketing if ultimately they're landing on a suboptimal product and dropping off? Right?
Yes.
You try to take care of both ends of the journey.
And lastly, for all the design enthusiasts who are watching us today, what is one piece of advice you would want to give them to navigate better in the ecosystem?
Yeah. Firstly, you should see who you're taking your advice from. So listen to me only if I am genuinely someone who you feel is relevant for your space. So if I am, then the advice would be that we focus a lot on quality, but quantity is also very critical for creative people to do lots of work, because when you do hundreds or thousands of pieces of work and you go through that grind is when you develop the muscle and you develop the taste to understand what genuinely stands out, what
Yeah.
is creative and what is impactful based on feedback from your peers, mentors, clients, right? And of course, feedback from the market, which is the ultimate decision maker for whether your work did create any impact or not. So many times creative people get caught in the trap of saying, I'll just do one or two interesting
I've
things that
always
are
seen
cool.
them doing that.
Yeah.
Always.
It is a tendency, it happens, but that's a lesson I've also learned the hard way, that you have to do lots of work in order to learn. Learning by doing is the most important thing in the age of AI, especially because we feel that a lot of our work can be automated, but a lot of it we will learn only if we go through the ringer and we grind it out in the trenches. So that would be the critical thing to do. Do lots of work. Quantity has a quality of its own, and it will pay off in the long term. So hunker
I'm
down,
taking this
do the
advice
work.
personally now.
Yeah, and now that I'm giving it, I'll also have to live through it.
Thank you so much, Sahil. It was really an insightful conversation and an interesting one too. I learned a lot and I'm taking a lot of your recommendations personally. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.